Her friends were laughing behind her, drunk and loud, thinking this was hilarious. Kiss the biggest guy in the bar. That was the dare. Simple. Stupid. She should have said no. But 3 vodka sodas made her brave, and the divorce papers she'd signed that morning made her reckless. So she walked across the floor in her heels, pushed through the crowd, and stopped at his table. 5 seconds. That's all it took for Brielle Hayes to walk up to the wrong man and kiss him. He sat alone in the back corner, half his face hidden in shadow. Big didn't cover it. The guy looked like he could snap her in half without trying. His suit probably cost more than her car. Gold watch. Expensive shoes. But it was his eyes that made her stomach drop. Cold. Empty. Like he was looking through her instead of at her. Before she could think it through, Brielle leaned down and kissed him. His lips were warm. He tasted like bourbon. For a second, nothing happened. Then his hand came up and gripped the back of her neck. Not hard. Just enough to keep her there. Enough to show her that he was the one deciding when this ended. When he finally let go, Brielle stumbled back a step. Her face felt hot. The bar was spinning, or maybe that was just her heart trying to break through her chest. You done? His voice was quiet. Calm. Like she hadn't just invaded his space. Brielle forced a smile. Just a dare. Sorry. He looked past her at her friends, then back at her. His expression didn't change. A dare. She waited for him to laugh it off. To go back to his drink. To forget this happened. Instead, he stood up. All 6 feet something of him. He buttoned his jacket with one hand. The other hand, the one that had been on her neck, was covered in scars. Old ones. White lines across his knuckles. What's your name? He asked. Why? Because you just kissed me in my club. He said it like that explained everything. And now I need to know who you are. Brielle's mouth went dry. Your club? He smiled then. Barely. Just the corner of his mouth lifting. Everything in this building belongs to me. Including the air you're breathing. Her friends had stopped laughing. The music still played, but it felt distant now. Muffled. Like the whole room had shrunk down to just the 2 of them. I should go, Brielle said. Yeah. You should. But his hand caught her wrist. Gentle. His thumb pressed against her pulse point. You're scared. No. Liar. He let go and stepped back. Go back to your friends. Finish your drinks. But understand something. You walked into my world tonight. Walking out isn't going to be simple. Then he sat back down and picked up his phone like she'd already disappeared. Brielle's legs carried her back to the booth on autopilot. Her friends were talking, but she couldn't hear them. All she could feel was the place on her wrist where he'd touched her. The skin there felt hot. Marked. She grabbed her drink and drained it. Tried to laugh when her friend asked what he said. Tried to pretend her hands weren't shaking. But every time she looked toward that back corner, he was there. Watching. Not staring. Just aware. Like he could see her no matter where she moved. An hour passed. Brielle danced. Took shots. Did everything she could to prove that kiss meant nothing. That the man in the corner was just another story she'd tell someday. But when she went to the bathroom, he was waiting in the hallway. Brielle pressed a hand to her chest. You scared me. He stood with his back against the wall, arms crossed. Up close she could see details she'd missed before. A thin scar through his eyebrow. Gray threading through his dark hair at the temples. The way his suit fit perfect, like it was made just for him. That was the point, he said. Are you following me? You kissed me. In my club. His voice stayed level. I'm following up. Something cold ran down Brielle's spine. Look, it was just a dare. I didn't mean anything by it. I know. But you picked me. Out of everyone here, you walked up to me and put your mouth on mine. He pushed off the wall. Why? My friends pointed you out. You looked serious. It was funny. Funny. He stepped closer. You know what I was doing when you interrupted me? Brielle shook her head. I was deciding how much money a man owed me before I had someone break his legs. The man you kissed runs half the crime in this city. The man you kissed has people who've disappeared for less than what you just did. Her breath caught. You're lying. Am I? He pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. A man on his knees, hands tied, blood running down his face. This was taken an hour ago. 2 blocks from here. Want to guess who gave the order? Brielle's stomach turned. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you walked into. He put the phone away. That kind of confidence, walking up to a stranger and kissing him, that's either brave or stupid. I haven't decided which. I'm nobody, Brielle whispered. I work at a hospital. I process insurance claims. I'm not part of whatever this is. His hand came up and she flinched. But he only touched her chin, tilting her face up. You're not nobody. Not anymore. Then he walked away, leaving her standing in that hallway with her heart trying to break through her ribs. Brielle went back to her friends. She smiled and nodded and pretended everything was fine. But her eyes kept going back to that corner. To the man who'd just turned her night sideways. She watched him talk to his security. Watched him check his phone. Watched him glance up once, catch her looking, and hold her gaze until she had to look away. Time to go, Brielle said suddenly. What? Her friend protested. We just got here. It's been 3 hours. I'm tired. You guys stay. I'll catch a ride. She didn't wait for arguments. She grabbed her purse and headed for the exit, pushing through the crowd like she was being chased. The cold air outside hit her hard. Brielle pulled out her phone and ordered a car. 3 minutes away. She hugged herself and tried to breathe normal. A black truck pulled up to the curb. For a second Brielle thought it was him. But then the window rolled down and it was her driver, a woman with kind eyes asking if she was Brielle. Yes. Thank God. She climbed in. As the car pulled away, Brielle turned to look back. In the window of the club's upper floor, she saw someone standing there. Watching her leave. The man raised one hand. A wave. Or a promise. Brielle woke up to her phone ringing. She grabbed it off the nightstand, squinting at the bright screen. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Brielle Hayes. The voice was professional. Female. I'm calling from Peak Administration. We're the new owners of Community General Hospital. Your presence is required at a meeting this morning. 9 sharp. What meeting? Brielle sat up, rubbing her eyes. Who bought the hospital? All questions will be answered at the meeting. Conference room A, don't be late. The line went dead. Brielle stared at her phone. Peak Administration. She'd never heard of them. Hospitals didn't just get bought overnight. That took months. Paperwork. Approvals. She called her supervisor. No answer. Called her coworker. Same thing. By the time Brielle showered and dressed, her stomach was in knots. Something was wrong. She could feel it the way you feel a storm coming before the sky gets dark. The hospital was quiet when she arrived. Too quiet. The usual morning chaos, doctors rushing around, nurses at the station, patients in the waiting room, all of it was missing. Like someone had hit pause. Conference room A was on the 3rd floor. Brielle took the stairs, her heels clicking loud in the empty stairwell. When she pushed through the door, she saw 5 people sitting around the table. Her supervisor. The hospital director. 3 men in suits she didn't recognize. And at the head of the table, sitting in the director's chair, was him. The man from the club. Brielle froze. He looked different in daylight. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by dark jeans and a black shirt. But those eyes were the same. That calm, measuring stare that made her feel like prey. "Sit," he said. "What is this?" Her voice came out too high. "This is a business meeting. Sit down." Brielle's supervisor wouldn't look at her. The director stared at his hands. Nobody was talking. She sat because her legs felt weak. The man leaned back in the chair. "My name is Rain Matsuda. As of 6 this morning, I own controlling interest in this hospital. Which means I own your job. Your paycheck. Your future." Brielle's mouth opened but no sound came out. Rain slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos. Her at the club. Her kissing him. Her getting into the car. More photos she didn't remember being taken. Her apartment building. Her car. Her sister's house. "You have something I need," Rain said. "And I'm willing to pay for it." "I don't understand." "Your sister. Tanya Hayes. She owes some very dangerous people a lot of money. $30,000, plus interest. That debt comes due in 1 week." Brielle's blood went cold. "How do you know about that?" "I know everything about you." Rain opened another folder. "Your divorce. Your student loans. The fact that you've been sending Tanya money every month trying to help her pay it off. It's not working, by the way. She's in deeper than you think. What do you want?" 6 months. You work for me. Do exactly what I tell you. No questions. In exchange, I clear your sister's debt completely. She walks away clean. Work for you doing what? Medical work. Off the books. I have people who can't go to regular hospitals. They need someone who knows what they're doing and who knows how to keep their mouth shut. He leaned forward. You're smart. You're careful. And now you're mine. Brielle wanted to say no. Wanted to stand up and walk out. But the image of Tanya, her little sister with the bright smile and bad choices, kept flashing through her mind. What if I refuse? Then your sister's debt stays active. And the people she owes, they're not patient. They're not kind. He said it without emotion. Like he was reading a weather report. Your choice. The room felt too small. Too hot. Brielle looked at the photos again. At the proof that this man had been watching her. Planning this. 6 months, she said. Then I'm done. Rain smiled. 6 months. Starting now. The basement under the club looked nothing like a hospital. Concrete floors. Exposed pipes. A single metal table in the center with a bright light hanging over it. But there were medical supplies stacked against the wall. Clean ones. Professional equipment. An oxygen tank. Monitors. Everything she'd need. This is where you'll work, Rain said, walking her through the space. Most of the injuries are minor. Gunshots. Stab wounds. Broken bones. Occasionally something worse. Occasionally? Brielle's voice echoed off the walls. People in my line of work get hurt. They can't go to hospitals without answering questions they don't want to answer. So they come here. And you fix them. I'm not a doctor. No. But you've worked in emergency rooms for 12 years. You know how to stop bleeding. How to stitch wounds. How to keep someone alive long enough to stabilize them. He stopped walking and looked at her. That's all I need. And if someone dies? Then you did your best. He said it so casually. Like death was just part of the job. The first patient came 2 hours later. A man in his 20s with a bullet wound in his shoulder. He was conscious, cursing in Spanish, clutching the wound while blood ran between his fingers. Get him on the table, Rain said. 2 men lifted the injured guy and laid him down. He screamed when his shoulder hit the metal. Brielle's training kicked in before her fear could stop her. She pulled on gloves, grabbed scissors, and cut away his shirt. The wound was clean. Through and through. The bullet had missed the bone. I need to clean this, she said. It's going to hurt. The man nodded, breathing hard through his teeth. Brielle worked fast. Cleaning the wound. Packing it with gauze. Her hand stayed steady even though her heart was racing. She'd done this before in the ER. This was just another patient. Just another shift. Except it wasn't. Because Rain stood in the corner watching. And the 2 men who'd carried the patient in had guns under their jackets. And nobody was going to call the police if something went wrong. When she finished stitching both sides of the wound, Brielle stepped back. He needs antibiotics. And he should rest for at least 3 days. He'll get what he needs, Rain said. Good work. The men helped the patient off the table and walked him out. Brielle stripped off her gloves and washed her hands in the small sink. Her fingers were shaking now that it was over. You did well, Rain said behind her. She didn't turn around. This doesn't make me one of you. No. But it makes you useful. He came closer. And useful people get to stay alive. Over the next 3 weeks, Brielle saw 12 more patients. Knife wounds. Broken fingers. A dislocated shoulder. One man who'd been beaten so badly his face was twice its normal size. She treated them all. Didn't ask questions. Didn't look Rain in the eye when she was done. But at night, alone in her apartment, she couldn't stop thinking about it. Couldn't stop wondering who these men were. What they'd done to get hurt. If they'd hurt other people. Her phone rang one evening. Unknown number again. Hello? Brielle. It was Rain. I need you at the club in 20 minutes. I'm not on call tonight. You're always on call. 20 minutes. He hung up. Brielle drove to the club in the dark, her hands tight on the wheel. When she got there, Rain was waiting outside. His face was different. Tense. Worried, maybe. What's wrong? She asked. My brother. He's hurt. Bad. He led her down to the basement. A man lay on the table, unconscious, his shirt soaked with blood. His face looked like Rain's. Same eyes. Same jaw. But younger. And dying. Brielle ran to the table, checking his pulse. Weak. His breathing was shallow. She pulled up his shirt and saw the wound. Stab wound. Deep. Right under his ribs. He needs surgery, she said. A real hospital. I can't do this here. No hospital, Rain said. His voice was hard. Fix him. I'm not a surgeon. If I try this and make a mistake, he dies. If you don't try, he dies anyway. Rain grabbed her shoulders. His hands were shaking. Please. Brielle looked at the man on the table. At Rain's face. At the impossible choice being handed to her. Get me more light, she said. And something to put him under. I'll need someone to hold him still. For the next 2 hours, Brielle worked. She'd never done surgery before. But she'd watched doctors do it hundreds of times. She knew the steps. Knew what to look for. The wound was deep, but it had missed the major organs. She cleaned it. Stitched the layers. Watched his vitals on the monitor and prayed they wouldn't drop. When she finally stepped back, the man's breathing had evened out. His pulse was stronger. He'd make it. Rain stood beside the table, staring at his brother. When he finally looked at Brielle, his eyes were wet. Thank you, he said. His voice cracked. Brielle stripped off her gloves. Don't thank me. Just keep him still for the next few days. If those stitches tear, I can't fix him again. She walked to the sink and washed the blood off her hands. When she turned around, Rain was right there. Close enough that she could feel the heat coming off him. I owe you, he said. You don't owe me anything. This is the job. This is what you're paying me for. No. This is different. He reached up and touched her face. Gentle. His thumb brushed across her cheek. You saved him. You could have let him die and walked away. But you didn't. Brielle's breath caught. She should step back. Should push his hand away. But she didn't move. Why did you really buy the hospital? She asked. Why go through all this just to get to me? Because I saw something in you that night. When you walked up and kissed me like you owned the world. He leaned closer. You've got steel in you. You just don't know it yet. Then he kissed her. It wasn't like the first time. Wasn't playful or reckless. This was something else. Something heavy and desperate. His hands slid into her hair. Her back hit the wall. And for a moment, Brielle forgot where she was. Forgot that this man was dangerous. Forgot everything except the taste of him and the heat of his body against hers. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Rain rested his forehead against hers. This is a bad idea, Brielle whispered. The worst, he agreed. But neither of them moved away. The next morning, Brielle woke up in Rain's bed. She didn't remember falling asleep. Just remembered his arms around her. His voice in the dark telling her she could stay. Now sunlight cut through the blinds and she was alone. She sat up, looking around the room. Expensive furniture. Huge windows. A view of the city that probably cost more than her yearly salary. This wasn't the club. This was his home. Rain appeared in the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. He was shirtless, tattoos covering his chest and arms. In daylight they looked like art. Dragons and symbols she didn't recognize. Morning, he said, handing her a cup. Where are we? My place. You fell asleep. I didn't want to wake you. He sat on the edge of the bed. How do you feel? Confused. Brielle sipped the coffee. Last night shouldn't have happened. Probably not. This doesn't change anything. I'm still working off my sister's debt. After 6 months, I'm gone. Rain watched her for a long moment. Then he nodded. 6 months. You have my word. But his eyes said something different. Something that made Brielle's stomach flip. 2 weeks later, everything fell apart. Brielle was at the hospital finishing her regular shift when Rain called. His voice was tight. Don't go home tonight. Why? Someone found out about you. About what you do for me. They're watching your apartment. Who? People I'm in business with. People who think you're a problem. He paused. I'm sending someone to pick you up. Stay at the hospital until they get there. Rain, what's happening? War. That's what's happening. And you're in the middle of it. The line went dead. Brielle stood in the hallway, phone pressed to her ear, while her world tilted sideways. She'd known this job was dangerous. But knowing and living it were two different things. A black truck pulled up outside 20 minutes later. The driver was one of Rain's men. He didn't say anything, just held the door open. They drove across the city to a building Brielle had never seen before. Industrial area. Warehouses and empty lots. The truck stopped in front of a steel door. Inside was an apartment. Small but clean. A bed. A kitchen. Supplies stacked in the corner. You're staying here until this blows over, the driver said. Don't leave. Don't call anyone. Rain will come when it's safe. Then he left, and Brielle heard the lock click. She was a prisoner. 3 days passed. No phone. No internet. Just 4 walls and the sound of trucks passing outside. Brielle paced the apartment until her feet hurt. Tried to sleep but couldn't. Every noise made her jump. On the 4th day, Rain finally showed up. His face was bruised. Split lip. Dried blood on his collar. But he was alive. It's handled, he said. You can go home. What happened? I took care of the people who were looking for you. He said it so simply. Like he was talking about paying a bill. Took care of them how? You don't want to know. But Brielle did want to know. Needed to know. What did you do? Rain looked at her and something in his expression made her blood run cold. I made sure they'll never bother you again. You killed them. Yes. The word hung in the air between them. Heavy. Final. Brielle should have been horrified. Should have run. But all she felt was relief. Relief that she was safe. That Rain had kept his promise. This is what I am, Rain said quietly. This is the world you're in now. If that's too much, tell me. I'll clear your sister's debt and you can walk away. But if you stay, you need to understand what that means. Brielle looked at him. At the bruises and the blood and the exhaustion in his eyes. At the man who'd killed for her. I'm staying, she said. And she meant it. The basement had become familiar now. Brielle could work in the dim light without thinking. Could stitch wounds while talking about something else. The fear had faded, replaced by something colder. Efficiency. She was good at this. Rain watched her work one night, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. You've changed, he said. Have I? When you first started, your hands shook. Now they're steady. You don't flinch anymore. Brielle tied off a stitch and cut the thread. Maybe I'm just getting used to it. Or maybe you're becoming someone else. She looked up at him. Is that a bad thing? Rain pushed off the wall and came closer. For you? Probably. For me? He touched her face. It's the best thing that's ever happened. She should have hated him for dragging her into this. For using her sister as leverage. For turning her into someone who could look at blood and feel nothing. But when he kissed her, all she felt was heat. They ended up against the wall, his hands everywhere, her scrubs coming off in pieces. When he lifted her onto the metal table, she wrapped her legs around him and didn't think about where they were or what she'd become. Later, lying tangled together on the floor because the table was too uncomfortable, Rain traced patterns on her skin. 6 months is almost up, he said. I know. Are you leaving? Brielle stared at the ceiling. She should say yes. Should go back to her normal life. But normal didn't exist anymore. She'd crossed too many lines. Done too many things she couldn't undo. No, she whispered. I'm not leaving. Rain pulled her closer. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. The war Rain had mentioned came 3 weeks later. Another organization wanted his territory. Wanted his business. They thought he was vulnerable. They were wrong. Brielle was in the basement when she heard gunfire upstairs. Close. Too close. She grabbed her phone but it was dead. The door burst open and one of Rain's men rushed in. We need to move. Now. What's happening? They're here. They're hitting every location. The club. The warehouses. Everything. Where's Rain? The man didn't answer. Just grabbed her arm and pulled her toward a back exit she didn't know existed. They ran through tunnels under the building. Dark. Cold. Smelling like rust and old water. Behind them, the sounds of fighting grew louder. Shouting. More gunfire. Something exploding. They came up in an alley 3 blocks away. A car was waiting. The man shoved her inside. Stay down. Don't move. But Brielle couldn't stay down. Couldn't just hide while Rain fought. She pulled out the gun he'd given her weeks ago. The one she'd kept in her bag and never thought she'd use. Take me back, she said. What? I said take me back. Now. The driver looked at her like she'd lost her mind. But he turned the car around. They pulled up behind the club just as Rain came out a side door. Blood covered his shirt. He was limping. But alive. Brielle jumped out of the car and ran to him. His eyes went wide when he saw her. What are you doing here? I told them to get you out. I came back. She grabbed his arm, helping him toward the car. Are you hit? Grazed. I'm fine. But his face was pale. He was losing blood fast. They got him in the car and Brielle pressed her hands against the wound in his side. It was deep. Too deep. Drive, she shouted. Now. Back at the safe apartment, Brielle worked faster than she ever had. Cleaning the wound. Stopping the bleeding. Rain stayed conscious the whole time, watching her with those dark eyes. You should have stayed away, he said. Shut up. Don't talk. Just breathe. I'm serious. This life, it's going to get you killed. Then we'll die together. She met his gaze. I'm not leaving you. Not now. Not ever. Something changed in his expression. Softened. He reached up and touched her face despite the pain it caused. I love you, he said. Brielle's hands froze. Those 3 words hung in the air like smoke. You don't mean that, she whispered. Yes I do. I've loved you since the night you walked up and kissed me like I was nobody. Like I was just another guy in a bar. He smiled despite the pain. You saw me different than everyone else does. Not as something to fear. Just as a man. Tears burned in Brielle's eyes but she blinked them back. I love you too. And I hate that I do. I hate that you made me into this. But I can't imagine going back to who I was before. Then don't. Stay with me. Build this empire with me. He pulled her down until her forehead touched his. Be my queen. And Brielle, who'd spent her whole life playing it safe, who'd never taken a risk until that dare in the club, said yes. The war ended 2 days later when Rain's people found the man who'd ordered the attack. Brielle didn't ask what happened to him. Didn't want to know. She moved into Rain's place that week. Quit her job at the hospital. Became his partner in every sense of the word. 6 months had come and gone. Her sister's debt was paid. Brielle could have walked away free. But freedom didn't mean anything anymore. She'd found something better in the darkness. Found herself. Found love in the last place she should have looked for it. 1 year after that dare, Brielle stood in the club's new VIP section, watching the crowd below. She wore a black dress that cost more than her old car. Diamond earrings that Rain had given her. Her hair was done. Makeup perfect. She looked like money. Like power. Rain came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. His brother had recovered fully and now ran security. The business was growing. They'd expanded into 3 new cities. You happy? Rain asked against her ear. Brielle leaned back into him. Yeah. I am. No regrets? She thought about the woman she used to be. The one who processed insurance claims and went home alone and played everything safe. That woman felt like a stranger now. None, she said. And she meant it. Because sometimes the worst decisions led to the best outcomes. Sometimes walking into danger was better than staying in safety. Sometimes love came wrapped in darkness and you had to be brave enough to grab it. Brielle had grabbed it with both hands. And she wasn't letting go. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are watching from.